How does one actually eat intuitively, and what does intuitive eating look like? This is the third video in my intuitive eating series, and here are the previous ones if you haven't seen them already, and also they're in the description. So we've talked about what intuitive eating is, what it means, what the principles of it are, and what the science behind it is, and if it actually works. So now you might want to actually jump into intuitive eating, but you have no idea what to do. So here's my take on intuitive eating, how I personally eat intuitively and what it means for me, and maybe this can give you a place to start. So the original intuitive eating method by Evelyn, Tribole, and Elyse Resch that I've mentioned in my previous videos is like the official way to eat intuitively. But of course, I believe that you can just tweak that to fit your needs and make it mean whatever you want. Again, disclaimer, they do not endorse my way of eating intuitively. I'm not saying that I eat the right intuitive way, but it's my way of eating intuitively. And so personally, instead of following the 10 principles to a T, I just basically use my intuition to determine what I want to eat, when I want to eat, and how much I want to eat. And that is actually more complicated than it sounds. As much as possible, I try to eat when I am hungry and stop when I am full. Fullness doesn't necessarily mean physical fullness. Like for me personally, after a few bites or like a third of my meal, I would say I feel satiated. I'm not hungry anymore. But do I keep going? Yes, and that is because my emotional hunger hasn't been satisfied. And also because I know myself, and I know that if I stop eating after one third of my meal, then 1 hour later I would be hungry. I stop eating when I feel physically full, emotionally satisfied with what I have eaten, and I feel like I can move on. Sometimes even if I have a little bit left on my plate, if I don't feel like eating that food anymore, then I stop eating it and I save it for later. This doesn't always mean that I'm not hungry, like, you know, you're always hungry for dessert and that type of stuff. Sometimes I'm just not hungry for this one particular food item, but I'm still hungry for another one, and that's totally fine. I listen to my body. I believe that it needs the foods that it is attracted to and the foods that it wants, and it doesn't need the food that it doesn't want anymore. Hope that made sense. For me, intuitive eating also looks like letting go of all the judgment people have on my food intake. We all experience outer distractions on what we eat. For example, your grandma might be pushing you to get a second helping and you're telling her that you're not hungry, but she's really pushing you and you don't want to hurt her feelings. Or maybe today you feel super hungry and are eating a huge portion of food and your friends are making fun of you and telling you that you're never gonna get your summer body. I've had people comment on my food portions one way or the other. You're never gonna satisfy everyone, and that's okay, because the only person you need to satisfy is yourself. Your personal, physical, and emotional hunger cues should be the only judge of the food that you're eating. However, I think that intuitive eating also means knowing when you have to eat because that is the best possible option right now and the best thing you can do for your body, even if you're not hungry or even if nothing that you're eating sounds good. And I made a video about that right here if you're interested, by the way. An example to illustrate that, because it doesn't seem really clear, is, for instance, say I have a test for like a big exam and that's like at 4 p.m. and it's 12 p.m. and I need to eat right now because if I don't, then I'm not gonna have time to eat later on and I'm not gonna have energy for my exam. So I eat even though I don't feel hunger, I don't want to eat physically or emotionally, but I still kind of force myself to eat because I feel like that is the better solution for my body. And sometimes I'm eating at a restaurant or at a friend's house and the food that they serve isn't what I really want to eat. It's not the food that I'm really craving, but I still eat it because it's my only opportunity to eat and I would rather eat it than be hungry later on. With intuitive eating, I also don't classify foods as good or bad. There are foods that are good for me at the moment and foods that aren't. For instance, if I really want to get all the fiber and vitamins and minerals, then I'm going to have broccoli or kale. But if I'm having a really hard day and I'm wanting something to satisfy my emotional hunger, I'm going to have pizza or a brownie. And if I'm just waiting for dinner and I have like a couple of hours to wait and I'm kind of hungry, then I'm just gonna have one cookie to kind of fill me up until then. Obviously, some foods are healthier than others, have more nutrients than others, but every food provides you with certain benefits. And it may be hard to find the right balance at first. A lot of people tell me that if they start eating intuitively, then they're just gonna have candy and pizza and cookies all day, every day. And I don't think that's true. I mean, at first you might, and actually you will. If you've been restricting for a long time and suddenly all of these foods are available to you because none are good and bad anymore, then you might binge on them. But once you realize that you're actually allowed to have them whenever you want and that they aren't being restricted, then you are more likely to balance out your meals because the foods won't seem so appealing that now that they aren't off limits. As you learn to listen to your body's signals and cues, then you'll start craving the healthier foods again as well. Again, this is a long process. There are tons of things to learn, but I really think that it's worth it in the long run. And I've said this in my previous videos, but I'm going to say it again. If you're someone who has always eaten junk food, or if you're someone who has been heavily restricting, then I suggest before jumping into intuitive eating, before doing what I mentioned, to gradually learn about your body, learn about nutrition, learn to listen to yourself without going all in, because I don't think that that will be the perfect solution for you right away. Because if all you're used to eating is junk food and you suddenly decide to eat intuitively, your intuition is just going to tell you to eat junk food. You need to kind of reset yourself, reset your body, learn to listen to your hunger and fullness cues again, learn to listen to what your body needs, learn to enjoy vegetables and fruit and healthier food options, and then you can go to intuitive eating. Same thing, if you've been restricting for super long, then I suggest taking it slowly, starting to reintroduce junk food, starting to kind of make your portion size a bit bigger so that you can learn to listen to your hunger and fullness cues again. And then once that's settled in, you can start intuitive eating, or you can start what I've been talking about. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like it and subscribe, and see you on my next one. Bye.